Hey everyone, it's John Barrett with Level Up Your Leadership, where I'm going to give you visual leadership lessons so that you can improve and get better. Today I want to talk about live in the middle. This is something that you've got to get if you're going to be successful. If you really want to live life to the fullest, we have to understand as leaders how to live in the middle. Now here's what I mean by that. If you think about life, we've got kind of our starting point over here, and whatever the end point over here, and I don't mean the end of life necessarily, but kind of the idea of whether that's a day, whether that's a season that you're going through, whatever it is. If we think about this, we've got this line that we'll just call life. And if we think about this, life is really a series of kind of roller coasters. And if you think about success, this is kind of what it looks like many times. It's just coming up and down, and we're all over the place. And many times we're up here, what I would call on the mountaintop. And this mountaintop is good. When we're on the mountaintop, it feels great. We're successful. We're making it happen. We've got momentum. We're doing the right things. We're accomplishing all of our goals. We're just in the zone. We're in the flow. We all experience those mountaintop times in our life. But as we all know, as we go about life, as we go about our day, as we go about the quarter, as we go about the season, as we go about the year, we have these moments where we hit the bottom, where we hit the valley. And when we are in the valley, it's hard. These valley experiences are hard. And in fact, it kind of feels like we're crashing sometimes. We're crashing and burning, and it's not going well. You've all experienced that. You may be in a season right now of your life where you feel a little bit in the valley. So what do? We have these mountaintops with these valleys, these roller coasters that we're going up and down with, and that's part of life. But how do we learn how to live balanced in here so that we're not all over the place? Because when we're on the mountaintop, it feels great. These mountaintops, boy, they feel great. We've got momentum. It's amazing. But these valleys, they don't feel so good. And all of a sudden, if we're not careful, when we're on the mountaintop, we're in the zone, we're doing well. But when we're in the valley, we're giving up. We're guessing everything. We're not in the zone moving forward. And if we're not careful, our leadership and our success is incredibly inconsistent. And that inconsistency creates not only our own emotional issues and our focus to get off and get distracted, but it also is jarring to others around us. When we're just kind of a moody leader and we're a roller coaster leader, that's never good. No organization wants to be there. So what do we got to do? Well, we've got to learn to live in the middle. And here's what I mean by that is learning how to get along this line and live as close as we can so that when we're on the mountaintops that we celebrate those, but we don't let it kind of get off. And here's what I mean by that. Many times when we're on the mountaintop, if we're not careful, if we allow ourselves to go up and really kind of think more of ourselves, what happens in the mountaintop is this. Here we are, and we're on the mountaintop of life. We're happy, things are going well, and that. Now here's what we've got to be careful of. Mountaintops are good. Celebrate the good times, all that. I'm all for that. But what happens if we're not careful, when we get on the mountaintops, we begin to get a really big head. We think we're better than we are. We think we're untouchable. We think we're unstoppable. And that's simply not the case. So if you're not careful, if you allow yourself to get really, really high on the inside about the mountaintop, I'm not saying don't celebrate it. But if we allow ourselves to get kind of thinking we're better than we are and it goes to our head, what happens is that we all of a sudden now begin to get prideful. Ego sets in. Untouchable. We think that we've got the corner on the market and we're just going to keep sailing and things will never change. We got this. And if we're not careful, the moment we come down from that mountaintop, it's a hard drop. We were just in an amusement park last week with my kiddos, and I love going on those roller coasters where you just drop and your gut goes up. But listen, roller coasters are fun, but in life, when you go down to that valley, it doesn't feel good. And the higher you go and you allow yourself to get thinking better of yourself than you should, bigger than you are, ego sets in, and this is not good. You don't want success to go to your head, because all of a sudden now you'll think you're better than you are. You get the point. So we've got to understand on the mountaintops, we've got to be careful. Now here's the key word that I want you to think about. Well then, John, what do we do with mountaintops? I mean, I don't want to allow myself to get too much in my head and think that I'm bigger than I am and that. What do? Well, here's a simple way. When you're on the mountaintops, here's what you need to do. Be grateful. Grateful. That's the key word on the mountaintop, is to be grateful when you're up there. Now, here's what I mean by that. Celebrate the mountaintops. Be glad about them. Say, hey, I'm so grateful that we're in a good season with our organization. But you know what? I'm going to learn to live in the middle. I'm going to celebrate that, but I'm not going to allow myself for it to go to my head. But I'm going to practice gratitude. I'm going to be grateful, but I'm not going to be greedy. I'm not going to be up there doing things that are unhealthy for me to do. Now, vice versa. When we are living life and we hit these valleys and we kind of hit the bottom and it's not going well, here's what I want to kind of warn us about. Because what happens is that when we're in the valleys of life and we're living and we're doing our thing, it doesn't feel good. We got kind of a sad face on here. If we're not careful, we'll allow the valley. It doesn't really go to our head. What happens, what I've found is this. It goes to our heart. And here's what I mean by that. We start to think that we are worse off than we really are. We start to question our worth, our value. Can I even do this? Am I even the right fit? And all of a sudden now we kind of get out of our head and we don't really think logical. We think emotional many times. Even if you're not wired emotionally, it still can get to your heart. And if we're not careful, when you're in the valley, you will think you're worse than you are. You'll think you don't have what it takes. You'll think that you're no good. You'll think that you've got to give up. You'll second guess everything that you're doing. Listen, we can't allow the valleys to take us out by kind of ruining our heart. We got to stay the course. Now, here's the key word when we're in the valley. Remember, when we're on the mountaintop, it's be grateful. When you're in the valley, listen to this, be faithful. Now, here's what I mean by be faithful in the valley. Keep moving forward. Keep going. Don't stop when you're in the valley. Don't camp out down here and let it go to your heart and think, oh my gosh, I'm no good. I'm terrible at this. I have no worth. I have no value. I can't do this. Don't let it go there. All leaders face mountaintops and valleys. But listen, successful leaders, they know how to be grateful and how to celebrate, but not get too much in their head when it comes to success. But they also know that when they're in the valley, and you will go through the valley, trust me, many times, when you're in the valley, you don't let it go to your heart. You don't let it sack you and sink you and tear you down and destroy you. You remain faithful to keep doing what you need to do, because eventually, my friend, you will start coming back up. And here's the deal. The more you can live in the middle, the more that you can live in that center and regulate yourself, the better you're going to be. Now listen, the reality is you're never going to live in a straight line. We're emotional people. We're humans. We have excitement. We have down times and all that. I get it. You're going to have some roller coaster through this. What I'm wanting to do is just help us not to be so extreme on the mountaintop and in the valley. Guys, listen, I know that this is something that if you can get this, if you can learn how to live more and more in the middle, and you can celebrate the mountaintop, be grateful, and be faithful in the valley, but keep going, the more you can minimize this extreme kind of bipolar tendencies of leadership, the more successful you're going to be on the inside, and the more successful you're going to help those around you be, because you're going to be consistent. And guess what? You're going to help them live in the middle. And when we're living in the middle as individuals, as an organization, as a team, when we live in the middle, we're that much more consistent. We're that much more strong. We're that much more effective in all that we do. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. Go to johnbarrettleadership.com. Check out all the resources. We've got a level up guide where you can talk about this with your team. You can talk about some self-reflection questions and application of how you can apply this in your organization so that you can be consistent, so that you can withstand the valleys, you can celebrate the mountaintops, but you're always moving forward in the middle.
Reach out to us today so we can help take you and your team to the next level.